Well, now, back onto the reason why I asked you about shipping is because,
Yeah,
well, there's a notion, of course, like there's when people like fight or argue which which ship is the best or
yeah,
why wouldn't it work or why whatever. Uh, like there's a notion, or at least I feel like from what we're given by the actual game by itself,
yeah,
is that there's of course a vision, personalities, a set of traits for each character, and
right.
of course, as someone that is working with someone else's creation, like you making more stories with these characters, like
Yeah.
I don't know, I'm not asking if you've done it. I don't think you have, but I want to see if you maybe have seen it done like in other stories or interpretations that people have had of the characters about them like basically betraying the vision that Salvador had about them, what he thought about them.
Oh, so like stories where the characters act in a different way.
Yeah, like would like the thing is about creating more content with these characters is that of course you would run the risk of portraying them in a way that the original maker wouldn't have wanted them to.
Yeah. Um, I have seen some stories where the I I think it might have been exit music. I haven't played it, but I've people have told me about it. Um, that's like just to try and avoid many spoilers. That's the one that's like more Natsuki focused, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Um so I read that Yuri was very out of character in that mod. Oh, the police are coming.
It's getting real intense now.
There they go. Okay. Sorry about that. So like I read that Yuri was written quite out of character in that story. Have you played that mod? Would you
Uh,
agree with that?
yeah, I haven't, but the thing is that of course I've heard stuff like that. I haven't seen examples. That's why
Yeah.
I'd like to ask you, like mostly because of
I
course, as I'm sorry, since you're writing the stories, like what
yeah.
guidelines do you keep for yourself? Like I don't think that Yuri would pass. I don't think Natsuki would.
Yeah. So I read another story where there have been a couple of stories where like the characters just acted in a it's less that oh this character wouldn't do this thing where it's like you read it and you just kind of like excuse me like you know like you just like have like a pause. Like I remember a while ago I saw a story where the all of the characters become sentient and they decide to take out their they have like built up, I guess, tension or aggression, and they decide to reset the game multiple times so that they can each very graphically kill NC.
Okay.
And it it felt really weird. Like even with that context, it it didn't feel like because it wasn't like giving the stipulation that like oh this is like you know an alternate universe where they're all yandere and stuff like this was supposed to be like within the game's main canon like obviously post game but
Yeah.
it was
It's,
meant to be in the game's actual canon um and there was another story that I read that it just had a really um I don't want to say bizarre but it might be the word I guess interpretation of Sayori's character specifically, like in regards to her depression. So, I've read some stories where people kind of treat it as like something that you can immediately cure.
uh,
Like it's like oh like they save Sayori and like you know the next day she's like completely better. Um, but yeah, no, you asked like what are my guidelines?
yeah, like how do you understand? Or well, of course, that would require you to talk about every character, but like how do you make sure, like, how are you at peace with yourself knowing that you're trying that your portrayal of the character like something that seems natural, something that seem part of the game.
Right. Yeah. Um. So when I wrote each of my, I guess, 5 big stories now. Um. So like each of the POVs plus the Act 2 Yuri one. I did play through the game, a full playthrough additionally, like pursuing that character, just to get like various contextual clues that I might have missed on a first go through. And so I wanted to stay as true to Dan's, I guess, characterization with what had been put in the game. So I guess when I'm writing, I guess I think like, unless like if I'm intending for this to take place in the game's actual canon, would this make sense to have happened?
Right.
Like when I was writing Stale Cupcakes, because the story is supposed to be written as if it's Natsuki speaking, so I found myself having to simplify a lot of my language. Like I like to use a lot of like flowery like SAT words. But like whenever I write Natsuki, it's like, okay, so Natsuki's all about like straight to the point, like simple poems and such. So I it would be out of character for her to use words like melancholic or loquacious rather than like upset or talkative.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah, like given what Dan put in the game, I guess that's where my main interpretation of the character comes from. And obviously I have like a slew of headcanons for all of the characters.
Don't
But
we all?
yeah, no, but yeah, my general guideline would be like, if I saw this in either the base game or a mod that's taking itself seriously, would it make sense?
Right.
Yeah.
Um.
Because if you like in oh gosh, I'm trying to remember the story. Because I read someone else's story about I do you mind if I quickly like just like see if I can find this person?
Yeah. Yeah. Don't worry. Go ahead.
Yeah, do you wanna ask another question while I look for this?
Right. So for now, like well, not that we're on the topic of this. I remember like reading about a story where like the 4 characters were like transferred into some zombie apocalypse or something like that.
Mm,
I didn't read it, so anything I say is like just my first impression of just the description. But to
yeah,
me, it felt like putting the characters in that sort of situation felt already like to me already felt out of place. So
yeah.
in that order of ideas, like I don't know, do you think there's a way to actually make it work, or it's maybe just that these characters are not built for to be part of that kind of stuff?
Well, I definitely think alternate universe stories they can work very well. Um, like there's another user on the sub called Randstrom who is currently writing a story called Fault that it it looks at a I believe it's a post college Yuri and Natsuki as roommates. Um and that's like more of a answer to your last question. I'll try and answer this one that you just asked, and then I'll come back to that. But so I think like stuff like like a zombie apocalypse stuff, or I don't know if you're around very early, but there used to be a big fic about it was called Project Libertina after the like obviously after the mentions in the game.
Right, the
And
like the Easter eggs that were found and
yeah,
supposed like next game from Dan that actually had a
yeah.
story.
So there was a user called Twixter the Trickster who wrote a big story where it looked at the characters as though, I guess, as though they were the characters in Act 2 Yuri's book.
Right.
And I do think, like, if it's well written, like, obviously it's kind of like a caveat, like, if it's well written, then it's good. Like, that doesn't. uh,
Yeah, of course, that's kind of subjective, but
yeah, but I do think, like a scenario where it's a zombie apocalypse, or it's like, oh, it's not in a game, or um there's a different interpretation of the main character, and that influences the other characters in various ways. I definitely think those kinds of stories can work. If they are trying to take themselves seriously, though, they have to, I guess, they have to do their research, because it's very, it's very easy to kind of cross that threshold of, I don't want to say like uncanny valley, but like it's very easy to, it's like a very fine line to toe between like telling a compelling story and then kind of treading into that realm of unbelievability.
right.
Unless the story is meant to be like satire, in which case those definitely work.
Yeah, of course. I mean, if it's
Yeah.
like done for comedy, of course, whatever zany stuff they.
Yeah, but like I do think like stories like you mentioned, like they're in a zombie apocalypse. I read a story where they are all like from different original families, but they're all foster children in one family.
Hmm.
And yeah, and I thought that the author took they basically like they interpreted the characters, like how they would react to being in that scenario. And
So like it
so
still felt right for you, like felt like
yeah, like I guess even like, writing a ship fic kind of falls into that territory, because
right.
yeah. So it's like, as long as it's, again, it like follows that kind of guideline, is like, if the characters were in this situation, is this how they would react? Then it can definitely work. And I really like seeing alternate universe stories, because again, it's like it's another avenue to see, I guess, to see the characters in action.
Yeah, like to see them in a way that isn't possible in the story, right?
Yeah, like I'm not sure if these ones count, because they were definitely satirical in intent. I I wrote a number of stories where the role of player and Monica were inverted. So Monica is, instead of being trapped in the game, she is this overzealous fan of this fictional character in this dating simulator game.
It's too meta,
Um,
man.
yeah. So, and like all the other characters are kind of like, this, it's just a game. Like, you need like get over it, and like she's gonna like doing all the like the 2029 memes and everything. um,
Such a
so obviously
commentary on
that's,
the state of the sub.
yeah. So obviously that kind of story isn't meant to be taken seriously, but I like to think I did an okay job at interpreting how the characters would react to their friends acting in this way.
Right. All right.
Yeah.
I get what.